We have also put up a green hydrogen plant in southern part of India as a part of a technology demonstration because we believe as a Hero Future Energy that the world is green tomorrow. It's not black or white, it is going to be green. So we have a very strong belief that the green hydrogen economy is going to lead us in the coming days. So we have we spent a lot of money in putting up a green hydrogen electrolyzer plant in southern part of India, which is running successfully since last about 6 months. To talk of myself, I am actually a chemical engineer from background. My field is actually in oil and gas design of chemical process plants such as refineries and petrochemical plants. I was involved in the Gujarat Jamnagar refinery, which is one of the largest refinery in the world. I was involved in the design of that refinery. I've been dealing with hydrogen a lot, and the entire refinery and petrochemical segment is full of hydrogen. Everything uses hydrogen there. And it's our ambition and a dream that we use green hydrogen for everything, whatever we do in the coming future. That's our aim. And that is what the aim of the lot of countries, lot of government bodies across the world and in India as well. So let me take it further after that. Can I control using my laptop? So we know what is hydrogen. I think most of us have gone in a school or science. We know what is hydrogen. It's one of the most abundant, element across in the world. Part of the water molecule H2O, what we call. So two parts of hydrogen atom, one part of oxygen. We know it quite well. It's one of the lightest molecule around we see in the world. It's invisible. That's a dangerous part of hydrogen. So we don't know where it is and in what form. It's condensing at a very low temperature, at minus 250, something like that, So it's not a very easy gas to handle. Like, when you use LPG in your house, when it is leaking, you get a smell of LPG because they put some mercaptan in that, you can smell it. In hydrogen, you don't see that case. It's a very light gas. If it catches flame, you'll not see the flame. It's a very bluish flame, very light bluish flame. I recall when I was in one industry and I was walking in the night time at around close to 1 o'clock or so in the night. And I was seeing from one of the equipment, there was a kind of a blue jet, very light, faint flame was moving around, And we saw something is wrong here, When we went close by, we could realize it's a hydrogen leak, and it had caught flame. It was ignited, and this had been happening since quite some time, and it was invisible all across. Nobody could notice it. Somehow in the night time, I was happened to be very close to that equipment, and we could see the blue flame, very light blue flame. It's very hard to decipher. It's invisible and it is bluish flame. But luckily, it was caught, and we could see that it's a hydrogen leak. So it's a quite a difficult gas, I would say, to handle because it's because of the nature of it. Invisible. It doesn't show itself, and it is. And if it catches fire, you don't see the flame as well. You can only see when you're very close to it and you feel the heat because of the flame. So that's the nature of it. But we have to deal with that, right? So the whole environment of talking, hydrogen is I think I'm sure most of you know that we're talking of net zero. So subsequent to the 2015 Paris Agreement, that world is undergoing a change. There are a lot of storms. Carbon dioxide is rising in the atmosphere. There are climatic impacts across the world, which we have seen in several cyclones, hurricanes, and all. We hear every day in the news the flash floods, the sudden change of the climate, where the most dry region in the world are facing rain, and the one which are facing rain have earlier now become dry. So there is a climate change going on, and people have been able to understand that this is because of something which we're not doing right in the world, which we should have been doing earlier. We are putting a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And where this CO2 is coming from? Because we are taking it from the ground. We're using oil, we're using coal to meet the needs of energy, and we're putting the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere merely so far, so long. But we cannot do it in the future, because the future will not be responsible for us to our future generation to keep on doing it in the way we are running right now. We are burning, if you see, the power sector itself is contributing to 30% of the CO2 load in the atmosphere. We are putting up 38 gigatons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That's a huge amount. And majority of it is coming from the power sector, thermal power stations, which are the dirtiest of the lot. They're putting it in the atmosphere. You've got mobility sector, where your transportation sector, which is contributing to a lot of the CO2 we're putting in the atmosphere. We cannot go on like this. That is a few. This with otherwise we're ending. We're bringing the doomsday much closer to us. So in 2015, there was a agreement by nearly 190 plus countries who have ratified the agreement that we're going for where we need to do something about it. We cannot continue in this way. So they have a decision that we're going to be net zero by 2050. By net zero, by what it means is that you're going to, whatever CO2 you're going to emit will be absorbed back into the system. There will be no net increase in the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere, so that you're able to bring down the climatic effect of CO2. You're increasing the temperature of the atmosphere to a restricted level of not more than 1.5 degrees. That is the target of this Paris Agreement, and India is a signatory of that. So a lot of governments and all have formed their own bodies that how to achieve this goal. So one of the goal here is that we have formed the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. It's called MNRE, and they have put up a body called National Green Hydrogen Mission, GHM. It's called. I'll just show it to you, which are devising policies and all how to implement the green hydrogen ecosystem in India. I'll come to it. So green hydrogen, what do you mean by green hydrogen? It is something which is not produced by the conventional way. Method of producing hydrogen is using steam methane reforming process. That is what we do in India. In China, it is done using coal gasification process. We don't do it in coal. We do it using steam methane reforming process. So by which, what do you mean? You take the hydrocarbon natural gas into the reformer, you break into CO2 and hydrogen. You take the CO2 is practically vented out, and the hydrogen is what you recover. So that's called gray hydrogen, we call it. So this is not that gray hydrogen, it's called green hydrogen. It is done using electrolysis process. You apply electrical energy to break the hydrogen molecule into two pieces, hydrogen and oxygen. The energy for breaking it has to come from renewable energy. It cannot come from the conventional grid power. It has to be renewable power. So it's a green power. That's the definition of the green hydrogen. As I said earlier, that the CO2 emission has been rising. It is going up and up. End to it. China, as the more and more country is, they economize, they grow economically stronger. Especially the large country, China is already has gone. Sorry, is everything okay? Yeah. So China is one of the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide. USA is one of the biggest. They are probably first or second of the lot. India is the third biggest emitter of carbon dioxide. And as more and more third world countries, they come up in the economic ladder, you'll find that CO2 concentration is going to go up and up. So there's a very urgency need with every one of us to be responsible and to ensure that we don't go blow up the whole atmosphere by putting in a lot of CO2. Stop moving. Okay. Okay. Done. You're right. So green hydrogen, why? As I said earlier, green hydrogen is basically climate change mitigation, because we have climate is warming up. So that is one reason for it. Decarbonizing hard to abate sector, a lot of industries are using steam, petrochemical plant, refinery, they use a lot of hydrogen. And we can't, so it demands a lot of fossil fuel to make that much of hydrogen. And that's something you cannot keep on doing it forever. Energy security, the India is 80% dependent on fossil fuel from imports. We are importing 80% of our oil and gas from outside India, from Middle East and Russia, whatever you call it. So we can't be always dependent on those people. So when we produce our own green hydrogen, it's a fuel for us, and it gives you an independent, and it builds an independence from the conventional energy sources from Middle East and from Russia. So the more hydrogen we build on our own, the more independent you can be. That is one of the important outcomes of if you go with a green energy, green hydrogen economy. Economic development is there, because the more the green energy technology is a new technology, completely brand. There are a lot of manufacturing plants of electrolyzers coming up, so it's going to generate a lot of jobs. So it's going to create a lot of ecosystem by increasing the GDP of the entire country, if it comes in the way it is intended to. India historically and geographically has a lot of advantage of having to produce green. Unlike if you compare with Germany, Germany has got the country which are closer to the equator, they receive most, because this it is the solar, because of the way the solar lights are targeted. The country near to the equator have traditionally they get higher solar radiation kilowatt per square meters, so they can convert this energy into electricity in a much more efficient way than the countries living up in the north, like for example Norway or Germany, or in these countries. So we are in traditional per square meter, we are going to make more energy from solar light than the countries elsewhere. So countries like India, Middle East, and to some parts of Australia, Chile, and all, they have got a good solar radiation coming to those countries. So these countries are inherently advantageous in converting into produced green hydrogen. So we are luckily that we are doing well in this. We have got a good sunlight, so we can do very well in this particular context. Please let me know if you have any question. If you can just raise your arms. I mean, if you hear from the market, there is something called, green, blue, and, gray hydrogen. Gray hydrogen, what I told, so far we have been doing is all gray hydrogen, using the steam methane reforming process. So all the hydrogen requirement in our industry using, in refinery, in petrochemical plants and all, ammonia plants, they're all using gray hydrogen. That's called the name tray. So it carries a lot of burden on itself. If you see the carbon intensity, roughly 8 to 10 kg of carbon per kg of hydrogen you make. When you call hydrogen, the carbon is coming from where? It's basically sorry, I'll just skip through fast. So we are carrying a lot of carbon in that because of the burning of fossil fuels to produce this, So I'm just going to run through a bit faster because of the time limitation. So what we call green hydrogen is basically it carries a very small amount of carbon loading in it. The intensity is much smaller. That's why it's called green. Blue hydrogen is something when you see that something when you actually you recover the CO2 from the burning of fossil fuels, so you don't put the CO2 into the atmosphere. So that's why it's called blue. So green hydrogen production, as we say, that is done using electrolysis process. Typical numbers of how much you consume is like this: 55 kilowatt hour per kg of hydrogen. Make the major manufacturers are Siemens, Thyssen, JC, Peric, and Envision. Mainly the Europe and China are the biggest manufacturers of electrolyzers. The purity you make is pretty good. It's 99.9% hydrogen you deliver when you come out of it. So this is basically the trend of green hydrogen. I mean, not green. I would say the total hydrogen production. Something right now we are in the range of close to 90 million tons per year. It's a huge volume. So sectoral uses of hydrogen, I would like to just run through is that the current consumption is close to 6.5 to 7 million tons in India. I'm talking of. So roughly half of it is used in the refinery and petrochemical, and the balance is used in ammonia. Ammonia is called NH3, so it contains hydrogen atom, one part of nitrogen and 3 parts of hydrogen. We expect the demand of this is pretty high, especially from the fertilizer sector. So we are going to retouch a demand of 11 million tons. We want to make in India about close to 5 million tons of hydrogen every year, green hydrogen, that's the target. This is called NGHM, which the central government has formed, this National Green Hydrogen Mission. They're supposed to determine all the policies to encourage use of green hydrogen in every sphere of the activity, industrial activity. I'll come to it later on. The key target sectors for putting up green hydrogen is basically replace the hydrogen used in ammonia sector using green hydrogen. So the government has launched recently a lot of tenders to for the private players for green ammonia, and they have been successful. So we are going to produce roughly 750,000 tons of green ammonia by end of this 2030, end of the decade. There have been tenders in the IOCL refinery to use green hydrogen instead of the conventional hydrogen. So there is some action on that. Some of the refineries, especially Digboy refinery and Panipat refinery, have bid for hydrogen tenders. So we are going to replace those steam methane reforming using green hydrogen. One of the most attractive sector here is using in making of steel. The conventionally steel is used using coal. Your coal is used to take out the ferric oxide oxygen from the ferric oxide using carbon to make it CO2, and it comes out as atmospheric gas. So then you get the steel. Here you're using hydrogen to do the same thing. Use the hydrogen to take out the oxygen from the ferric oxide, and you get steel in that. So that's a completely new technology. It's being developed. We are trying to make effort to convert a lot of steel plants in India using this DRI process. Then, of course, this green hydrogen in the mobility sector. By this we mean using hydrogen in all your large vehicles, especially large trucks, in trains, and in the buses. You're going to see a lot of things coming up by the end of next 4 to 5 years. Getting stuck at. Sorry, now I'm talking of this. I have to talk all the good things about green hydrogen. Now there are a lot of challenges. There's a lot of cost differential between green hydrogen and gray hydrogen. The difference is nearly $3 to $3.5 a kilo. Gray hydrogen costs about $1 a kilo, and green hydrogen costs about $4.5 a kilo. It's a big difference. This is making it life very difficult for most of the people to adopt green hydrogen. You can't spend much more money to buy green hydrogen just because somebody has told you to buy it. So that's a challenge we're facing in this economy. Expensive electrolyzers. So you have to depend on Europe and China to bring the electrolyzers. There's absence of infrastructure to store hydrogen. You don't have transport and all. And we don't have much of standards and all to how to handle hydrogen. So I'm running short of time. I'll just take cognizance of that. I'll just give me 2 minutes. So the policy the government has told, it's to decentralize hydrogen. So they're putting up hydrogen hubs in some of the ports like Tuticorin, Kandla, and Paradip. There's a lot of infra. The government is sponsoring storage of hydrogen in some of the ports, so that the government is sponsored facilities there which people can use. It makes it more effective, for people to much cheaper. We are allowing people to manufacture electrolyzers in India. They're giving us a lot of incentive. They're nearly 4,500 crores toward this. We are encouraging a lot of pilot projects. For example, the making of steel. They are putting up small pilot plants in India to make steel using hydrogen. So these are all innovation government is encouraging for us to do, so that it can be adopted down 5 years down the lane to make really implement it in a practical scale. Sorry. Prepare regulation and standards for handling hydrogen. That's what I already discussed. I think I've also discussed about the replacement of gray hydrogen and green hydrogen. This probably in the coming future, a lot of people have city gas, used for cooking and all that. Be used using some hydrogen blending can happen in that to remove the natural gas, which is a fossil fuel. Right now, a lot of green ammonia. Ammonia is a very important user of hydrogen. So we are going to put green ammonia in the coming days. These tenders have been floated and they've been successful. Nearly 600,000 tons of green ammonia tender has been floated, and you're going to be seeing a lot of green ammonia coming into India. That's a very good news. There's something about the pipeline and all that. I don't think I need to go into. This is a real life example of what I mentioned in our own Hero Fusion in Nigeria. We have initiated a project to replace natural gas using green hydrogen in one of the plants 6 months back. So we are replacing the natural gas using a furnace of aluminum melting furnace using electrolyzer driven green hydrogen. So that's a small part we have played on our role, but we have very big ambition to build very large green hydrogen plants in the coming future, in the coming days, which will probably help the country in alleviating to an extent the carbon dioxide we are putting in the atmosphere. I'm ending my note with this. I'm sorry for exceeded time, but there's a lot of stuff to tell and there is little time to speak on. Anyway, I hope I have conveyed the message to an extent. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep, for touching upon the various aspects of green hydrogen, right from the gray hydrogen to blue hydrogen and now the green hydrogen. The United Nations has declared 17 sustainability goals, and one of the goals is again climate change. So carbon dioxide emissions do affect the climate change, and as rightly said, by 2050, the emissions India is poised to be a net zero economy uh, in emissions. That will, you know, curb the temperature rise by, which is expected to be, by 2060, it's going to be another 1 degree rise in temperature. That needs to be curbed to at least 0.5 degree. And these sustainability goals definitely will go in a better way to ensure that we are not seeing any adverse climates. In recent past, in 2 3 years, you must have seen very extreme climate changes in India, and specifically we in the equatorial zone are very much affected by climate control. So thank you, Mr. Sandeep, for an enlightenment talk on the green hydrogen utilization, and again setting an example by using it to for in your own industry. Thank you so much. I would request Professor Sir to come and felicitate Mr. Sandeep. The next speaker is